we're going to be into nubbing status very shortly here. Vanilla Gorilla. I like this viewer. I started calling him VG, but then really decided that wasn't a good idea. One of your YouTube subscribers from the Dr. Joe Show, hi, Vanilla Gorilla here, one of your YouTube subscribers. I recently watched your Monte 2 episode and found it very informative. Definitely have my sights on the M2 as my next pickup. What I found even more informative was your list of trusted vendors. I'm sure I'm not alone when I say the viewers really appreciate that little bit of knowledge. After checking out Cigar One, it really seems like the whole package. Good selection, decent prices, excellent customer service from what I've heard, and from the few emails that I've exchanged with them. Anyway, I live in Canada, and even though Cuban cigars are available here, they are quite expensive. Taxes, taxes, taxes. So I've been considering ordering online. However, the problem is that Canadian customs also charge very high duties and taxes on imported tobacco products. This worries me as it may offset any savings or even possibly cost me more. Now, I know this probably isn't your area of expertise, but I thought I'd ask anyway. I did email Cigar One and asked about the customs issue. I got a reply that was pretty vague, but included we limit each shipment to 50 cigars to avoid any unnecessary attention in customs. And also, please note that, well, we take all measures to avoid you having to pay any unnecessary taxes, blah, blah, blah. It occurred to me that in order for them to send similar shipments in the U.S., they'd have to be somewhat discreet about it, you think? And in asking them about this, they really can't put all their cards on the table. True, because they don't want to be, say in an email when they don't know who they're talking to that, yeah, we're going to do this and that, as I'm a new customer. Basically, I was wondering if you had any input on the matter, any tips, suggestions, tricks, or anything of the sort that might help me out. P.S. Sorry for the length of this email. Tried to make it short as possible, unsuccessfully, and I know you like to include viewer emails in your reviews sometimes. Not sure if this is a video-friendly topic, but if you figure out a way to incorporate it without getting any of the parties involved any unwanted attention, then feel free to do so. If not, then that's totally understandable, and I will not pout that my viewer email wasn't involved in the segment. Well, first of all, I'm glad you want your viewer email included in the segment so much. Second of all, please don't apologize for going on and on, because as short as I try to make things, I just have a uncanny, knack for having to include every fucking detail I can, and that is why a lot of these segments are much longer than I'd like them to be, but mostly filled with useful information nonetheless, I think. Here's the thing. The reason they say that number, and how dare you say I'm not an expert in this category, very offended, please. I'm not a customs expert, but I do know a thing or two about how the system works, especially being that I have to because of where I live. In our situation, it came to the point where packages under a pound are rarely, if ever, looked at, so that we know it as the 1 pound rule. With Canadian customs, since all cigars are legal there, it's the 50 cigar rule. Once you start sending more than 50 cigars, it exceeds the personal use quota and starts becoming looked at as, okay, this is the possible buy-sell business type transaction, where there would be a lot more taxes on top of those that are imposed on personal use cigars. So they keep their packages smaller. Now, I'm not saying anybody does this, but a lot of times a cigar vendor will, one guy will order a bunch of magazines and another guy will order a box of cigars, and by mistake the vendor writes magazines on the custom form that are actually your cigars. You know what I mean? So a lot of times they won't even look at the fucking shit and you get lucky. there really is no trick, tip, suggestion that stops them from picking your package and deciding to take a look at it. It's based on so many factors of luck. In our situation, I say a lot of times, Cuban cigars are illegal in the U.S. If you live in a bigger city where customs offices are more often flooded with packages, statistical probability is higher that your package will not be looked at. If you live in a small town, a rural area, or a state that doesn't have many big cities, it depends on how much your customs office deals with. That determines how probable it is that your package will be looked at. I'm sure, they do certain things that you really can't tell. They don't want you to tell them to do. They know what they're doing. They'll pack the cigars in such a way that they really don't feel like a box of cigars. They could do a whole bunch of different things. But there is no surefire way to say that your package will definitely not be opened and searched. And if it is, taxes are so high, and if you're ordering from Cigar One and then they start putting taxes on the thing after shipping, yeah, you're going to probably spend more than you would if you just bought them in Canada. So it becomes difficult. If I were you, and while I usually tell people to go to Cigar One first, if I were you, I would look for a site with prices that are slightly lower. Possibly one maybe out of Hong Kong. Depending on what you're ordering. If you're not looking to order big fancy regionals, maybe use whole Cuban cigars. Try some different things, knock some things around, figure it out mathematically how much you actually save and how much it would actually cost you if taxes were imposed. So the most I can say is that I don't know how many packages Canadian Customs searches. I don't know how likely a package will be searched if it says gift and it says magazines, and how probable it is that they're going to open it. I really don't know, and that's what it all comes down to. The only way you can really figure out, talk to other Canadian cigar buyers on forums, or just start ordering and see what happens. I pretty much opted for the latter when I first started. And like I said to people before, only once in my entire career of doing this was a package confiscated. It was the very first package I ever ordered. And I already told that story, and I will tell it again when we talk more about stuff like this, so I'm not going to say it right now. What I will say, excuse me, I don't want this to go out. It's nubbing and it's too small to light at this point. Sorry about all the noise too. There's an angry beaver up in my bedroom. So vendors do a whole bunch of different things. I'll leave everybody unnamed, but there's a lot of different check boxes and things on customs forms that really do matter, such as the retail item, business, or gift boxes. Now, gift is great because there are no taxes imposed on gifts. The problem with gift is that if it gets lost or it's not insured. At least that's how it works in the U.S. There's less policy as far as sending gifts as there would be, if the vendor is not trustworthy, So, I don't know. That's all I can say about that right now, really. Thank you for your comment. Thanks for your email. And now you have no reason at all to pout. Keep on watching and do keep asking questions. I will love to answer them for you. Oh, come on! And well, that's about all she wrote, folks. I do have a few more emails here, but I will unfortunately not be able to get into them as the cigar was just too short. I am nubbing at this point. At this point, flavor went back down. Smoke is very mild, very gentle. As close as it is to my eyes and nose and everything, it's not harsh to the senses, which I like. Got very floral. That barnyard type of smell is all gone. It's just kind of a little washed out at this point, but good. Strength did kick up a notch a little bit at the end, giving me a little more, good feeling, but nothing that would stop me from lighting another 2 or 3. for the most part, the last third, being that it's such a short cigar, very similar to the second third. Flavor remained pretty. I would actually break this cigar into two, and say you have your light where it's very mellow, and then it just picks up flavor intensity until the midway point where it stays that way up until about here, and then the flavor just starts to drop back off. So you have your very mellow smoke with this hay-like profile, notes of this grassy type flavor mixed with little nuances of honey and spices. About halfway through the cigar, a little bit of white pepper and some peppery taste, and gets a little stronger, and then as soon as it starts to get to the point where it's strong enough to start being considered maybe medium body flavor profile, it starts dropping down again. And right here we just have a very, very hay type, you know, a lot of hay. So I'm actually enjoying nubbing on this thing, but the flavor is pretty much dead at this point. I'm gonna nub 2 or 3 more hits. I'm gonna put the thing out, and we're gonna give you the final rating on the El Rey del Mundo. One thing I will say about this cigar is, if you don't like mild cigars, you probably won't like it. If you like mild cigars, or you like cigars no matter what, as long as they have some complexity to the flavor profile, you might really like this. If you like cigars that are very gentle, that you can breathe through the nose without any kind of burning or anything, that you can just smoke without a care in the world, this is for you. It's a great springtime cigar to start smoking again, get yourself used to smoking again outdoors. Oh, even at the end, a little tiny bit of pepper right there. I really like them. The other thing I will say about this cigar is that when it first came out, certain vendors had it available for pretty good prices. You know, $350, $375. Nowadays, almost 5 years later, there aren't a lot of places you can get boxes of these. And that's why I don't like to do older regional editions too much. Not that this is that old, but I like to do cigars that people can get their hands on more often. If I review nothing but cigars that are really super rare and you can't smoke them, so fucking what? You know, if I'm sitting here reviewing a 1984 Dunhill or a 1978, you know, Davidoff Don Perignon, who the fuck cares? You're never going to be able to smoke that cigar. You know, let me be the one to break it to you. You will probably never ever get a chance to smoke one of those. I know I probably won't. You never know. I mean, that's a quest. By the time I can smoke one, the thing will be 90 years old. It'll be completely fucking dead. So I like to smoke cigars that people have access to, and review cigars that people can go out and actually buy. But once in a while, I will do more expensive regional editions, especially if they're still available. These are still available. One source you can get them is Cigar One. However, for some fucking reason, I don't know why, they're about $700 a box on Cigar One. Go figure. Maybe that's what people mean when they talk about the crazy prices. I mean, their standard smokes aren't really that bad, but their regional editions are pricey, especially when there are vendors out there you can get them cheaper for. But once you're the only one who has them left, you know, they're worth whatever people are willing to buy them for. And at 4 years old, they're past vintage. You know, once they're 4 years old, they're vintage. So they're considered out of production. So the legal thing with the Violence SA is that you can't charge more than market price for cigars that are in production. So you can charge whatever the fuck you want, is where I'm going with this. Anyway. I literally have the cherry in between my lips and it's not burning for some reason. Very good. Oop! Ow. Okay, there we go. Time to go. Let's wrap it up. So there is our El Rey del Mundo Choix de L'epoque. Great, great, great mild-bodied cigar. One of my favorite springtime openers since I have been buying these. Let's just run down our scoring. Appearance, 1. Beautiful appearance, beautifully constructed cigar. Just perfectly round, perfectly cut, perfect cap, beautiful color, and looks absolutely fantastic dressed in its little double band outfit there. Construction, 1. Really good construction, which equaled a perfect draw. Little tiny bit of resistance, giving me big plumes of smoke, easily accessible, no struggle there. Burn 0.75, only because it, for some reason, just burned faster than I would have liked it to. I've smoked cigars this size, like Pt4 Mundo, which don't burn nearly as fast. So I think it has to do with not having a really huge amount of filler in there. Pre-draw flavor 0.5. Honestly, almost a little bland. You know, there was some complexity in there if you searched for it, but it wasn't like, you know, you cut it, put it in your mouth, and wow. Definitely could use a little more flavor in that department. But once the filler starts getting wet and it starts going, it's a whole nother world. Overall flavor 1.5. Really nice flavor, really nice, fresh, springy flavor. Hay, honey, notes of spice, cedar, really good, mild Cuban tobacco. Aroma, a 0.5. I liked the aroma while I was smoking it. It was very floral at the end, which is very standard. During the cigar, I got this very barnyard type aroma that kept coming up, which I thought in my head, wow, this would really stink to somebody who wasn't smoking this, which it did because I got several complaints. So it got a 0.5 on aroma. Complexity, 0.75. Very complex cigar. Not the most, so it's not a 1, but definitely a complex cigar. And balance, 1. Perfectly balanced for a mild cigar, or as a mild cigar should be. Our final rating, 8.0. This remains, to this day, to be one of my favorite mild-bodied cigars. It is very mild. It's not mild medium, it's mild. You know, it's mild the entire way through. And if you don't like mild cigars, you're not going to like this. But if you do like mild cigars, especially I would say if you're a fan of like La Gloria Cubana, especially like I am, you might really like this cigar. Unfortunately, at the going rate of about $700 a box, on the one side I found it available, and on some of the UK sites that still have it, Cigar One is not the only one. There are sites in the UK asking just as much. Don't know why. I guess it has to do with vintage status or availability, but I think that's a ridiculous price for a box of cigars like this. I think a box of cigars like this should cost at the most like $400, at the most, and even then only because they're special. I've seen people online say they got these as low as like, you know, $350, $375. I always say low prices mean fake cigars, but when it comes to regional editions, it can be a little tricky. Regional editions usually aren't faked, unless you're getting them from someone else, not a vendor who's putting weird bands on them. But they're really not usually a source of counterfeiting. So, and I have myself bought regional edition cigars for prices way lower than what you'd usually see and got nothing but the finest. Anyway, that's about it. That wraps it up. Hope you enjoyed this Cuban cigar review on the Dr. Joe Show. We'll be back very soon with our next non-Cuban review, which is going to be a pretty big brand, I think, if I'm ready to do it. I may do one more smaller brand, but I've been dying to do the next one for quite a while. It may take me some time to put the whole thing together, but I'll do it as quickly as I can, especially now since I say I have found some work and won't be allotted the usual amount of time I have to do all these episodes. But either way, we'll try to keep things rolling. Thank you again, 500 subscribers strong and growing. You really made my day, and as always, keep on smoking.